Over the years, I have accumulated many movies that I have purchased from United States and other countries. The main reason for buying American discs is the lack of English subtitles in Nordic releases. For some reason, Nordic releases lack English subtitles, so I always have the option to order movies from the USA. Many of these movies do not work in my player because North American Blu-ray movies do not work in Europe due to the region codes on Blu-ray discs that restrict their playback in certain areas. Blu-ray discs are divided into three main regions: Region A, Region B, and Region C. If Blu-ray disc is coded for Region A, it will not work in Region B player unless the player is region free. Blu-ray players are generally not region free because region codes help movie studios control the release and distribution of movies in different markets. Region codes prevent unauthorized distribution and consumption of movies, protecting copyrights and ensuring that movie producers receive fair compensation. This region code system is designed to protect the interests of movie studios and control the release and distribution of movies in different markets. However, I have legally ordered my movies from United States, paid all applicable duties and taxes, so I believe I have the right to watch the movies I have legally purchased. I recently acquired a new Blu-ray 4K Panasonic DP-UB450 player and intended to make the necessary modifications to watch all the movies I own. For this modification, I tested a couple of movies coded for Region A. My player is Region B player. For modification, I ordered a suitable modification chip from Rattle Byte. I will include the link to Rattle Byte's webpage in the video description. Price for the chip, along with the wiring harness and shipping cost, was about 60 to 70 euros. The chip arrived within a week of ordering. The shipment included the chip, wiring harness, double-sided tape, and installation instructions. In addition, you will need a fine-tipped soldering iron, some solder, a Phillips and flathead screwdriver, and a USB drive for firmware installation. It's also good to have a multimeter to check the connections, and if you're 45 years or older, reading glasses and magnifying glass may be necessary as soldering is quite precise. I also used 2-component glue to secure the soldered wires on the circuit board. Glue also acted as a strain relief, so when attaching the chip, I didn't have to worry about any soldering wires coming loose. Additionally, I drew and 3D printed a custom base for the mod chip, but this is not necessary. The chip can be attached directly to the bottom of the player case with double-sided tape. It goes without saying, of course, that modifying the device voids the warranty. The installation of the chip begins with opening the player. The cover is held in place by 3 screws. After that, the cover comes off quite easily. You may need to slightly bend the sides of the cover. Next is soldering the wiring harness. The instructions state that the T-pin can be soldered from the top or bottom of the main board. I found it easier to solder from the bottom of the board. This requires removing the circuit board. To avoid disconnecting the wiring of the circuit board, I decided to also remove the circuit board of the buttons and USB connector on the front panel. This smaller board is held in place by 1 screw, so it was quite easy to remove. After that, the circuit board could be tilted enough to easily solder the wire to T-pin. After soldering the wire, I checked with a multimeter that there was a connection between the T-pin of the circuit board and the D-pin of the mod chip. When the connection was confirmed, I glued the wire to the circuit board with a small dab of glue to ensure that it stayed in place during the rest of the installation. From this point on, the work proceeded in the same manner, soldering the wire, checking the connection with the multimeter, and then gluing the wires with the circuit board with 2-component glue. The most challenging part of the process was soldering, which requires precision. Once all the wires are soldered in place and the connections checked with the multimeter, the firmware update is next. Do not close the cover yet, as the mod chip has LED that indicates the progress of the update. The update is done by following the instructions, entering the correct codes on the remote control and loading the firmware from USB flash drive. If something goes wrong, just remove the power from the device and start over. Once the firmware is updated, cover can be closed and the player tested in practice. Before testing the movies, it's good to check the system menu to ensure the software license is updated. If the menu says Rattle Byte, the modification was successful. All the Region A Blu-ray discs I tested played without any issues. The player automatically switched the correct region, so all I had to do was insert the disc and enjoy the movie. Thanks to this modification, my movie collection grew by dozens of new movies that I had on the shelf but could not watch them before. I do recommend this modification, but it's important to remember that installing the mod chip, soldering the wires and updating the firmware requires precision and patience. The whole process took me a few hours and most of the time was spent on gluing, drawing and printing the mod chip base. So that's all for now. See you in the next video. Bye.